We live, we good to go?
Yeah.
All right, let's get it. Hello, this is week 1 of the 13-week fiscal program for American Prisoners of War. We have myself, Chief Biko. As always, we have Chief Alligator, Chief Quietwater, as well as Chief Blackcoat. And here more so, we focus on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. Before we get started, we definitely had to acknowledge and celebrate our 1-year anniversary at actually doing this, staying consistent. We've reached that 52 week mark this Sunday. So I definitely had to acknowledge that and of course applaud all of the chiefs on this platform, on this show that we do, because we can easily be doing something else with our time, but we said we're going to carve out at least 1 hour a day to study our history, celebrate our inventors and acknowledge, the things that we've done on our land. So definitely want to shout out to all of the chiefs on this channel. Salute to you all. Salute to all the viewers who have, been consistent, stay tuned. Shout out to you all as well, because, it takes, effort just to watch a video. So definitely wanted to acknowledge that. And, for this week, we're basically just going to do a summary of, the whole year. So we're just gonna, pick and choose, whatever comes to mind, what videos really stood out to us, what documents really stood out to us, and we'll go from there. Starting off, we'll always continue to do the 12 steps. So for the 12 steps, we'll have Chief Quietwater read off those.
All right. So step 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Step 2, who established that estate. Step 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? Number 5, they either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge. It's about steps 1, 2, and 3, in addition to field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Number 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Number 8, businesses need operating cash. Spend money with American businesses. Number 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Number 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Number 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about their history on this land. Have them learn about an American inventor. Have them know about our heroes. They should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. They should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion, militarily and culturally. And then number 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and the laws of the US government. Every estate American prisoner of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter will bring us together for our common cause.
Thank you, Chief Quietwater. And next we'll go ahead and have Chief Alligator with this week's inventor.
All right, am I clear? So this week's inventor, excuse me, we'll start it off with a bang. We'll do Mr. Leonard C. Bailey. I'll also do him next week. He's got 2 inventions. The first one is going to be the folding bed. Federal patent number is going to be 629286. Date July 18th, 1899. And he was born 1825. He died September 1st, 1918. He was 93 years old when he died. He was a journeyman barber, owned many barbershops in Washington, D.C. Mr. Leonard Bailey also founded the Capital Savings Bank on October 17th, 1888 in Washington, D.C. with 7 other Americans. Bailey served as the president, head treasurer, and director of its finance board. And that's this week's American inventor. Chief Quietwater, were you able to get all that?
I got it. What was the name of the bank?
Capital Savings Bank.
Okay.
And we're at that 1 year mark. I thought he was very important, being that he was right in the district where this government is headquartered at. At this point, it's just time to just stop the lies. It's too many of our scholars and too many of these schools that are always just editing out our history as if we were slaves. Slaves don't do this. So this idea that every one of us was on a military work camp, literally working for free, it's a lie. We've done 53 inventors at this point, you know, and that's the beauty of staying consistent and persistent. We got the body of work behind us, so now we can talk our shit. Basically, y'all lying, and y'all gonna have to come with proof of claim moving forward, because we got the proof of claim, and that's probably why this channel is so solid. We've invited Confederacy channels, we've added scholars, your quote unquote black media, you know, everybody who's pumping the slave narrative. Provide the document. Stop just talking to us like this is that preacher business model. That model is dead. The idea that one person can get up in front of a group of people and whatever he says is the truth. No, we're gonna challenge you. If you can't show us a writing that it happened, it's your shit.
Great point. Great point there, Chief Alligator. Let's see. Next, we will have Chief Blackcoat with this week's Dr. Woodson quote.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
You guys hear me now? All right, this week's quote, I'm going to do quote number 2. Negroes, however, sometimes choose their own leaders, but unfortunately, they are too often of the wrong kind. Negroes do not readily follow persons with constructive programs. Almost any sort of exciting appeal or trivial matter presented to them may receive immediate attention and temporary, at least liberal support. When the bubble collapsed, of course, the same followers will begin to decry Negro leadership and call these misrepresentatives of the group rascals and scoundrels. That'd be quote number 2 this week.
Excellent quote. Excellent quote. I'll go ahead and continue with this week's, or actually the legal definitions, as well as maroon historical points. Number 1, American, indigenous to America. 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline or an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. And number 4, prisoner of war, POW, person, usually a soldier who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. And 6, education and enlightening experience. The maroon historical points: 1, was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks and thick grass. And number 5, Maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans. And that is the Maroon historical points. So as stated earlier, definitely just want to kind of, give a summary of what we've done this year as a collective. Again, no big I's or little U's. We all, participated in this equally. We all did our share, whether it was, researching an inventor for that week, pulling up certain documents to tell our story. So I'll go ahead and start as far as, what documents really stood out to me, within this year that really kind of hit home for me. And I'll say probably my 3 documents that really stood out to me would have to be, I'll go with the Special Field Order number 15. And that kind of, after rereading it recently, really hit home that we were just really under, or are under, military occupation. And that Special Field Order really highlighted it, and we'll get into that. Another one that really stood out to me would have to be the Amnesty Proclamation. The president saying that it's clearly a civil rebellion, never mentioned war. We'll also get into that in regards to actually who has the power to declare war. And another one, or my last one, that kind of really stood out to me would be, man, there's so many. I'll have to go back to just the week 1, even though it wasn't a document, but that was the foundation. Week 1, just telling, each of us, our background in regards to, the actual, our actual bloodline, our actual history. So those are pretty much 3 things that really stood out to me. And I'm just going to share the screen here to show exactly, all that we've accomplished just within, again, 1 fiscal year. So the first quarter, we knocked out, again, our bloodline, our family history, just showing like our heritage, where we come from, where we descend from. We were able to get all the way up to the Treaty of Payne's Landing. Second quarter, finishing up with the American Removal Act, as well as Moultrie Creek. So kind of just reiterating those. Quarter 3, able to all the way get up to the Indian Treaty. I think that was probably the longest document we've read thus far, but it was an important document at that. And then, of course, this 4th quarter here, Homestead Act, as well as the Dawes Act, which we're continuing to read here. So again, just showing, that we can, if we just set our minds to it and actually be consistent and disciplined, that we can go ahead and accomplish some things, important things at that. So definitely just wanted to show that and, hopefully give a visual representation of that for the viewer in regards to the work that we've done. Anybody want to share as far as, how they feel about, completing 1 year? It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and piggyback. Chief Ward, were you saying something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was going to piggyback off of Chief Biko and just saying, everything we did is what, I don't want to say qualifies you, but you got to know who you are in order to claim that that birthright or that soil. And we just pretty much broke it down for 52 weeks of who's the American. And, with these documents, you can kind of separate who's the American and who's not. But no, we had a pretty good. This was a lot of good information. All of these documents we read to me were just, eye openers. I'll just go ahead and the militia. Us exposing the militia, knowing who's in control of the militia through the Constitution, and just knowing that foundation of what a militia is. Every day we go outside, we're not understanding who we're surrounded by or what's really, or who was really in front of us. So just breaking down that militia and knowing who the militia is, that was, major as far as what we've done. On the American Removal Act, the family divided, the family split open. That's huge and critical, because now we know we still have family members what's in Mississippi. Multiple things, Treaty of Moultrie Creek. Want to scroll down for me a little bit, Chief Biko? The Emancipation Proclamation, that was huge. What else we got? That Special Field Order 15, that's a huge one. Pretty much, prisoner of war, understanding who was actually roping us off and who was actually in charge of these work military camps. And we know with the Special Field Orders, it was military, rogue militaries. We're getting into the, 1866 Indian Treaty, having ancestors pretty much sign dotted lines for quarter sections of land. Just keep moving on, Homestead Act and the Dawes Act, really eye-opening as well, seeing just how our people became full-time European or assimilated into the Europeans' time. Give me 1 second, what is this? All right, but yeah, man, we got a lot of information out there. The 13th through the 15th Amendment, that was huge. Just us taking our time with that and really understanding what we were reading versus what we have learned, through traditional schooling. Now we got a lot of stuff out here, dog. Like, the more we put this shit out, the more we can, get back to being the American and stand on that edge of the coin. But as we continue this class tonight, it's a lot of shit that came out as far as people kind of being salty of us figuring out who we are and trying to tell us that's not who we are after we're doing the work and showing the documentation. But you still have naysayers that are kind of pretty much just sound like haters at this point of trying to say we aren't the real Americans. Documents or however you want to Google the American, it would gladly describe who the American is. And today you have the European added into that actual word American, but that first 4 or 5 lines of sentences, you know who the American is as far as their copper color, male or female. And that's my piece right now. I'm gonna keep going.
What's your thoughts there, Chief Water? Step away. Might have stepped away. When Tisha comes back, you definitely want to go ahead and what's your thoughts there, Chief Alligator, in regards to top 3 before we actually go line by line for as far as the weeks?
Top 3 to me, I'm gonna say week 1, going back in my family tree and learning who I am.
Yeah.
None of this matters until you see for yourself that, yeah, you are the American. After that, I'm in alignment with Chief Blackcoat about the militia, understanding what the ground floor of this whole thing is, that it's not racism, it's military occupation. And I don't believe it's a hard pill to swallow. The lie is we were slaves. The reality is we're prisoners of war. Both are harsh terms, but one, through proof of claim, we've shown what it is. That's just what it is. And I think thirdly for me would be Tampa. Going to Tampa for me just made it all so real that this really happened, because there's a historical library there. There's actually footage there, seeing that with my own eyes. That did it for me. Those would be my top 3.
Okay. So my top 3 would definitely be week 1, just starting off on this journey and coming together with you guys and just kind of learning more about everybody's family history on this land, including mine. So week 1 is definitely very, very important, because that's where it all started for us to build on, every week after that. The second one for me would be the video. It was not necessarily a document, but the video where we, it's week 3 and third quarter, where we basically proved via numbers, Library of Congress documents that we had that the Europeans were actually the slave. So that's the second one that I think that definitely hit home to debunk the theory that, you know, we were all slaves. And then the Homestead Act was one that kind of touched me in regards to how they really just took the land. I mean, just little by little by little, and how they strategically and very thoughtfully created a Homestead Act to do that with no problem at all. So those were the three that stood out for me.
I definitely agree with that. Tampa though, and the slaves, you know, European being the slaves, those are huge as well. You know, the Seminole War, we never heard about that, so that was huge. No doubt. I wanted to add that one into mine as well. The Seminole War down in Tampa.
Let's go ahead and run through them. As far as, you know, like you said, we talked about our family tree, what American tribe we descended from. I was actually just listening to that very first video, and just, you know, seeing each other break down, you know, how that, you know, state or how that state was established after, you know, the European came here. But prior to that, you know, being able to name the actual tribe that we came from, you know, the language that was being spoken, things of that nature. I was just looking at mine, just trying to remember and just seeing, you know, that Eno, Shikari, and then that Westo American, like being within that same territory, and then, you know, still being in that same territory to today, you know, even in present day. So just seeing like, yeah, we've been 10 toes down since the beginning. We never, you know, went left of that Mississippi. We're never removed by force from our, you know, stomping grounds or our actual, you know, homelands in that area. So that was very big for me. Anybody else?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
What tribe, for the record, because we all gonna share on week one, learning about your family. What tribe do you descend from? Because people need to. There's a movement going on that we're American and B1 and all this and that. We've debunked all of that by looking at our own family.
Right.
What's your American lineage, Chief Biko?
American lineage, like I said, you know, Shikari and Westo American. The Westo actually came up underneath the Catawba, Catawba. They actually were merged into that after the Yamasee War. But my mom said she just knowing from, you know, speaking with her family, which, you know, we always touch base on, her grandma told her, yeah, we Cherokee. And it makes sense because there was Cherokee in that. Lawrence is probably not, you can consider, I guess, like close to northeast South Carolina, and Cherokee were really like in that northeast portion as well. So I can see how they merged into the Cherokee as well at one point. Because again, you know, just being separated, all the fighting and things of that nature. Hey, we speak the same language. We're going to come up underneath you. So actually getting down to the specifics of things, it would be the Eno, Shikari, and Westo Americans, but then coming up underneath the bigger tribe of the Cherokee, as well as the Catawba. Just those are a little bit more easier.
And what state was that, Chief Biko?
South Carolina.
So Tuskegee Confederacy. Just looking at some old maps, we all fell up under that umbrella of Tuskegee Confederacy. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Right.
But yeah, after a while, the truth is gonna come out. I'll just always remember my great grandma, who, you know, of course, she was super old and sickly, but at the time we used to always just go across the lake, give her medicine or whatever. And, you know, that was just childhood memories that I always had and never knew, like, who is this bright skinned lady with this long hair all the way to the ground? And, you know, who is this lady that we give medicine to? And, you know, that was our grandma, or our big mama, perhaps I should say. And full-blown Cherokee. We come out of Savannah right there. We know today, Florida and Georgia is pretty much the same thing. So my people are just Cherokee Seminole coming out of that coast or from that port. And it's just beautiful knowing today that we can unravel all these things, and just by looking at pictures and comparing, contrasting what we're learning. And it's like, yeah, we come from this from this land. No one else looks like us. And once we do that homework and understand for Cherokee or Choctaw, Chickasaw, all of those Southeast tribes and nations, which goes along this whole entire Southeast, it's a beautiful thing to me, because now we have some sense of pride of who we are. We're no longer lost. Everybody else gets to put their flag up in their bios and stand 10 toes down on who they are, and kind of just out here lost in the sauce and no more. We're going back to who we are, and that's just how we move forward. Right now, we just gotta take some steps back and, be proud of who we are. I grew up here and I was Cherokee all my life, and then I got to school and now I'm African American. And it's like, okay, I went the African American route. I didn't know. Maybe I thought my parents was wrong, but no, that's just what school did to us, and we definitely just gotta listen to our family. Even our family is afraid to say some of these things, but they still know, so they'll still say it. And once they say little things, you really gotta take heed to it and trust them more than school, because the school just playing with words at this point.
You want to go, Chief Cloudwater, or you want to go last?
I'll go. So on my maternal side, it was Choctaw. And then on my paternal side, it was Cherokee. And, just in alignment with everyone else, just knowing this information, it just gives you a little bit more, for me, a little bit more sense of pride in knowing and understanding that, like Chief Blackcoat said, growing up, you got Indian in your family. It didn't really mean anything back then, but it means something now, because we're learning more and more about who we actually truly are. So I just think that it just came from a lack of understanding from our elders and parents, and them not really knowing, or just putting it in the back of their mind of who they really were. And but they know, most of them do know this information. So I just think that it's good that we were able to tap into it.
It's almost like a sense of fear there on why they kind of just let those terms go of who we are, because it's well known, and for them just to be super quiet on it, it's like it's almost a sense of fear of what really happened to our elders and ancestors, and to the point they don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, for me, I'm probably the dumbest one on this channel, because I was embedded in it. My family had their first family reunion in 1988, and I was actually the DJ for that first family reunion. No, not the first family reunion, the second family reunion. But it was around me my whole life, is what I'm saying. That's what makes me like the dumbest probably on this channel. Like, my family on my mama's side is organized, so they had these reunions, but when you're a kid, you're just focused on playing with your other cousins your age, or going to the skating ring or the party with your older cousins, that weekend. You're not really thinking about going to the classes on Sunday morning where they're actually talking about the lineage and who you are, if that makes. So I missed that. So I went into what I call nigger culture. I'm going to high school in the 90s. I did the Malcolm X thing. I was all in Africa. That was my generation. Afro-American history studies, all that came out when I was coming through high school. So I thought I knew something, and it was around me the whole time. And I'm not gonna say I'm halfway through life, but yeah, I'm in my early 40s when things started making sense for me. I started asking questions, looking at my family, and I just went to a census record, and I was like, damn, how we got all this land, but we're supposed to be slaves? And so I started asking the right question. I think that's the right way to say it for me. Your family knows. It's just that you got to ask the right question to get them to share with you what you're trying to figure out. So once I started asking that question, how do we have land, but we're supposed to be slaves? And then that's when I started learning, we never told you was a slave. So it's almost like they let me just wander in the wilderness until I decided to come back to the country and start asking certain things. The other thing that jumps out to me about my generation is my mother always gave me the choice of the summertime going to the country. I think that was a big mistake looking back. You know, I always had the choice, you know, you want to go to the country? I don't want to go around. I don't want to go to no country. You know, I kind of shooed that off. Like, I don't want to go down there in the woods. Ain't no AC. But looking back, you know, my mom and them didn't have a choice but to go back and connect with the elders that never left the land. You know, whereas growing up in the city, I'm looking at it like, I don't want to go down there with them people, man, you know. So now, yeah, certain things we don't need to give our kids a choice on, or give the young people a choice on in our life. You know, some things we have to say, like, look, this is what you're gonna do. You'll figure it out later, but you need to get grounded in that. So I am Cherokee as well, and it rhymes. All of us coming from that Southeast region. But it took me a long time. Like I said, I really believe I'm the dumbest one on this channel because I had it all around me. I had it all around me, but it just shows how powerful the military brainwashing is through the school system. It had me lost. I can tell you about Egypt. I can tell you all of that, but that's got nothing to do with who your big mama is. And I remember my big mom as well, Chief Blackcoat. She was sick as well. But I'm the only boy out of my granddaddy's kids. I'm the only grandson. So when I think back, they always poured a lot into me, and I just misapplied it, you know, for part of my life. I misapplied the energy. So now it's kind of like I'm coming back full circle now, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying? It's like I had my run out there doing whatever. Now it was like, now I'm coming back in alignment with the only grandson of my granddad was supposed to do. I'll stop right there on week one, but that definitely grounded me too.
I was just gonna talk about family reunions. We don't have them anymore. And I was a kid. I can remember. I think the last one we had was 2002. I got the picture in my head of the shirt we had. And yeah, 2002 was the last family reunion we had. And I never understood. Well, I mean, I knew it was a family reunion of, you know, everybody coming together, good time, eat, kids, family, fun, whatever. But it was definitely bigger than that. It was somebody, how Chief Alligator said, that was organized and knew, hey, this is how we keep who we are together. And those people have now become older or, you know, sickly or, you know, passed on. And I haven't heard of a family reunion from anybody that looks like me in a minute. I'm sure people still do it. I know they still do it, but it's been a long time since I've just heard about a family reunion, and on a scale of we have to do this, you know, every so often. And, you know, but that goes back to just knowing who we are and respecting it, you know. Now we're so far off in La La Land, it's like you don't really want to even, you know, be around others no more because everybody has their own ideology of who they are and what it is. Now we got pronouns and shit. So it's just like, all right, they want to destroy all types of trait that, you know, coincides with who we are as the real American. Now Europeans claim to be American, and now everybody born here wants to be where they're from and American. And it's just like we got a lot of work to do when it comes to, you know, standing on what it is. And of course, I always think about South America and, you know, Mexico. Just that's also us, but it's just a lot of pieces that we got to connect. And family reunions would be huge if we could definitely get that back popping and just keeping that lineage together.
Absolutely. And I think we all kind of hit on the same point just in regards to, you know, the same similarities that we see just from our family, and, you know, like Chief Blackcoat was stating, you know, the lack of, you know, just getting back together and, you know, making sure that history gets passed down. So definitely something I would say I want to start doing as well, implementing with my family on the personal side. Next here we have week 2 through 4, which we spoke about the militia. I know this was a lot of you all's, you know, top 3 that really stood out. And it just really pretty much explained how, one, you know, this whole system came to be because there's like, hey, we got to make sure we protect ourselves. We have to make sure, that we are arming ourselves and that we're all on code to arm ourselves in regards to, actually occupying this land. If we're going to be on this land, we know it's not ours, and they know it's not ours. So in order to protect ourselves from even getting wiped out as we come here, let's go ahead and pick up these guns. We need to have a code, and that code was the Militia Act. And I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, let you all see it. And again, this Militia Act, Ben Frank was a part of it. So again, somebody who they like to say is a founding father of not America, definitely United States as far as the government, but we already know he's not American. So how can he be a founding father of this land? But he was a part of, creating this Militia Act and saying, hey, we got to get on code, even regardless of, what your religious preference is. If you're a Quaker, as they said in this document, hey, you may not be with, the stick talk, but you're going to house us in regards to, making sure that we can protect ourselves against the American. So that was one thing that kind of stood out to me. One, them getting on code, and then, saying, hey, this is what we have to do to actually occupy this land. So that was one thing I just wanted to highlight. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that most people, because I definitely didn't know this information in regards to the president, the commander in chief has the right to call on the militia when needed. And we look at it as, white supremacy, but no, they actually have the right to do that under the call of the president.
And I, 100% agree with you, Biko. Understanding that foundation of where we are today, as far as a group of people, and just protect yourself at all times, man. You see, you got a guy up in Akron, Ohio, that just, took an unfortunate loss. I just recently saw the video, and that's just what it is. So we can't be oblivious to the shit that we are around. Somebody great to me said, the monsters still live on your block, and we gotta just, what Chibiko was saying, don't play around out here. Know the conditions. Don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. Don't play victim. Always be, straightforward with everything, and just protect yourself and your family. I want to just talk about. I really don't know what these acronyms coming out are supposed to be. As far as I understand that the young and the youth are falling for it about this B1 or this FBA. I like organizations. I like groups. I think they help. Ideals come out, they spread, and people move further and understand more. But this is just lineage based. This has nothing to do with groups of whatever. If we want to break off into certain groups and represent certain things, that's cool. But let's not try to lump everybody into this la world of this is what it is. Especially not by somebody that's been for years just providing information on the go, not really being tied to the actual groundwork or the street work. But that's my little piece on that. Just stick to what you know as far as family based in the bloodline. Because when you come up with things of those natures, one is going to have a leader, so everybody has to listen to them. That's dead. The code is the leader, and two, other people from other nations or lineages will try to compromise it. Agents. We've read these treaties. We've read these. It's a lot of things I'm seeing as far as people that don't look too like me, and I'm having to question this. I'm like, okay, you already have people that you're entrusting that's not from here, a part of your group. It's never gonna work. So just stick to who you know and what you know, and if it come off the internet, ignore it. Like, that shit is all a game.
Yeah, I would say for me, great points for everybody. I think number one for me is understanding your opposition. Benjamin Franklin's on the $100 bill for a reason. This is the reason. So we have to look at those pictures that are on there fiat currency. All of them are on there for a reason. George Washington was a general of their army. Benjamin Franklin started the militia. Abraham Lincoln, was the only lawyer. Hamilton, all these people were military officers. So you can see how we curse ourselves when we honor the fiat currency, when we cherish our ancestors' enemies on this currency. Another thing that jumps out to me is this is the elephant in the room for our group of people. We had fighting forces. We probably didn't call it an army. We definitely didn't call it a militia, but we had forces to protect the tribe and the confederacies. And this is the one thing that we do not want to address in 2022. And you touched on it, Chief Blackcoat. Here's another murder. Akron, Ohio. They shot at the man 90 times, 90. That's crazy. If you don't understand that you're under military occupation from the United States government. Nobody else gets done like that. So for us, the ground floor is we have to organize and we have to protect ourselves. And since we don't have a military, we cannot call it a militia, but it has to be some type of force, like Chief Biko said, where everybody has to get on code. Okay, so you Muslim and you nonviolent, that's fine. You got to be down with housing those that's willing to stand up though, right? If you under 45 years of age or whatever the number we come up with, yeah, you got to talk stick talk. If something happens within your tribe or within your area to somebody, y'all have to collectively show up. This is the only way that they were able to get 240 something years of having the United States government on this land. They all got on code and said that they would protect themselves. Somewhere in this document, it says they were even willing to go, 90 miles, I believe? We may not be able to find it exactly just while we're just briefly sharing today, but they had it all broke down as to how far they would even go if something happened to somebody. So shout out to the NFAC with that. I think about that, Breonna Taylor, and then something happened in Stone Mountain, something happened in Lafayette. People were willing to get up and go, and show that this is not the new normal. You're not going to take a life and just think you can relegate this group of people to marching and protesting and then tell them to go in the house. Militia Act is the ground floor for me. No, not for me, for us. It's the ground floor of why we're going through what we're going through.
Great points by everybody. Great points by everybody. And just understanding this document in itself is going to show you, how we, again, got in this situation in the first place. Again, as fears of American attacks increased, pressure to assembly grew until Wednesday. So they already knew, like, hey, if we want to survive or, occupy this land or try to, occupy all of this land, we're going to have to be on code. So again, as Chief Alligator and Chief Blackcoat were alluding to, the code is the leader. Everything else underneath that is, again, no big eyes, no little U's. We just know, hey, one of us gets hit, all right, we all in that area, 90 miles out, whatever we establish, we need to go ahead and make sure we see about whoever has done harm to our people. Next would be the amendment week. So this is where we talked about who the actual we the people were. A lot of us think, we the people and everybody is included in that as far as US citizens, but that's not the case. We the people were those framers, people like Ben Frank, Thomas Jefferson. These people who actually signed that Declaration of Independence or who was in that room to sign it, those would be considered the we the people. I'm gonna pull up that document here. I gotta show it here, but we always get confused, or we get told that we the people is basically any United States citizen, when that's not the case. We could trace that back to even who has held certain office positions. Pretty much sure, 90% sure that whoever was those we the people, their family or their bloodline, their lineage, their descendants have been a part of some type of office that can continue to run this government as it was established or as it was established by those we the people. So definitely that was a great week, and definitely I'm about to pull that up to have you all's thoughts in regards to that. Anybody want to share? on their thoughts in regards to like when we talk about the we the people.
Yeah, fuck we the people. Fuck we the people. Everything it represents, doesn't represent us. So, you know, I like how you just brought that up about, we really think we are a part of we the people, and it's nah, buddy. And that we the people is a very small group of people that make big time decisions still to this day. And yeah, that's what I gotta say is fuck we the people.
That was interesting. A highlight for me as well is understanding that it was just that small group. Was it 54 people, I think, that actually signed off, and that's their core people of who they protected and passed down to their descendants. So like Chief Blackcoat said, it doesn't represent us. We're not part of that 54.
Keep it in the family too.
Quiet Water, you got the document. So can you share that document for us? The we the people, you got it? While he's looking for it. I'm in alignment with what Chief Blackcoat and Chief Quiet Water said as well. And it's just crazy how, again, I go back. Europeans understand this. They know exactly who the we the people are. They understand exactly why they're the citizen under those we the people. They get this. We, through our military brainwashing through school, we try to put ourselves in their lineage, and they basically just let us go along with it. But they're knowing the whole time you're sick. And then you wonder why once you get out of school and everybody's adults now, why are things so different? I thought that there was a civil war, and I thought this, I thought that, why all of a sudden is it all this? Because you never stood on the edge of the coin and understood whose side you were on. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. The we the people. These people, they know when they go and fight other countries or fight us, they understand exactly what U.S. citizenship means to them. And if you ask any of them personally on a one-to-one basis, they'll tell you that they're U.S. citizens. They won't claim to be American. They only play that game with niggas. And I mean niggas, that means those that don't know who they are. But if you know who you are and they sense that from you, they'll admit, I'm a U.S. citizen. They won't tell you they're American in your face when they know you're American, because then they're dishonoring their grandparents. And they never do that. They'll always put you in the position to dishonor your lineage.
No, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And this here just, again, just highlights who these we the people were. As we kind of back out of this, but it says 55 delegates appeared, but only 39 actually signed the Constitution. So those 39 would be considered, those we the people. And just again, none of them, now I'll highlight this again, none of these fuckers look like us. So I'm not sure why or where we get that, that we were or we are a part of the we the people when none of these people in this picture are copper colored. None of these people look like us. This isn't even our form of government. We already have our stuff established. We're dealing with confederacies. We taught them how to have a confederacy with the article, or how to set up a government with the Articles of Confederation. So they wouldn't even gotten to this point had it been for the Americans, which is our bloodline, our ancestry. So definitely want to highlight that before moving forward. The next one would have been the Treaty of Moultrie Creek. This was pretty much our first treaty that we actually got into. This was also the first one that we saw, okay, we're not contracting with their, we the people, their government, we're contracting with their military. Another key point of showing, hey, we're in a military occupation. We're not doing business with their government. We're being occupied by their warlords. Again, we saw that they established it with the Militia Act, but now it is coming tenfold. Okay, now y'all just, sign these contracts with our, sergeants or our generals in regards to that. So I'll go ahead and pull up that here. And that was the Treaty of Moultrie Creek. We have a few of them here. But again, just showing here, 1823, Treaty of Motion Creek. So anybody want to kind of piggyback on that? I'll actually pull up the signings or the signatures that we have here. See if I can blow this up.
Yeah, that's the most important part, I think, that jumped out from me. Well, this also understanding that Jacksonville, Florida was named after one of these agents that signed this document. That right, William P. Duval. I was born in that county. So, and that's crazy. I call it a county, and you see what I'm doing? I'm putting a curse on myself because that's a European, and they renamed that area, but I was actually born at a military hospital in what we now know is Duval County. So that's one of the things that jumped out at me. If you could scroll up a little bit more in that last paragraph, right above where the signatures are, where it says, and of the independence of the United States. That last sentence right there, you know, that's one of the key things you just mentioned, Chief Biko. We realized that those people weren't contracting with the United States government, they were contracting with the military. So, you know, here again, military occupation. It was a bogus treaty. So in actuality, everybody that was forced to go into Oklahoma or Indian Territory based on this document, this is further proof that we own all this shit because this is a fake treaty. This treaty wasn't even done by the United States government.
I think that was something that stood out to me as well. The fact that, you know, just the misinformation of things that we just don't know. But like you said, it was an agreement with the military rather than the government. So it's just things that we have to know in order to continue to build on and to definitely teach others so that there is not such a big disconnect on this information.
Any thoughts, Chief Black Coat?
Yeah, my bad. I'm just over here. Just a lot of things going through my mind. But no, just yeah, man. I'm just tired of the bullshit. You know, these treaties show that they pretty much were just playing for keeps. There was no go back home. So people of power decided to go ahead and move in an aggressive way of, you know, get what I can get while I'm here now. And you see, you just had generals and bogus ass military leaders, you know, come up with treaties with our people, and mistakenly they put an X next to their names and contracted with them. But one thing I want to point out is 1823. You know, that sounds like a very long time ago, but it's really not. That means our ancestor was just not too long ago fighting these people, you know, to the death. And we fast forward today, and it's just how critical being on code is that you don't even know the Europeans on code. You can't even see it, and it's just that tight that yeah, they all know, like, yeah, we are not from here, but we're definitely occupying this land now, and they've gotten to a point to where they're comfortable. We just got to know what really happened. Like, how did we get misplaced? What happened? Why does the hood still look like the hood? What happened?
Great question. Great question. Great point too. And like you said, what happened? How we even get here to this point? That leads us to, you know, the American Removal Act. I believe I had it here. What was it? This one? Where did I put it? The Non-Discrimination Act. I'll put it up here. But that leads us to the American Removal Act, where we saw, you know, our different, you know, tribes being pushed off east or west of the Mississippi, rather. I'm going to pull up the map here, show this real quick. But as we all kind of just spoke about earlier, just in week one, knowing exactly where we came from, but also seeing, you know, how the family actually split was big, was super big. And then just reading exactly like the conditions that, you know, our ancestors were being put on underneath and put on to be put and forced in this small territory that would be, you know, militarily occupied, as we can see here, Fort Gibson, Fort Townsend, Fort Kofi, Fort Smith. So we have like 4 forts, and I'm pretty sure it's much more just within this one little small area. And we're housing these nations or tribes of people that speak, different languages underneath this Muscogee pre-Confederacy, being forced into this little area, again, being occupied by the gun. So it's like, okay, how did we, let this happen? How did this happen? And again, we kind of just already painted that picture, started with that Militia Act. And then as they continue to, grow their numbers, because again, those are the people being sent over here from those boats, as far as, they like to say the transatlantic slave. If anybody was a slave, it was the European. Because how can we be, as American, occupied on this land if they weren't the ones being shipped over here in masses? If they weren't the ones being shipped over here in masses just to have, warm bodies to fight a war that is being waged on our land.
So they just told that shit in reverse. The transatlantic slaves, they just flipped it.
They just flipped the people.
Right.
You weren't the slaves coming over on the boats. That was the European.
Right, and then right here we're looking at the transatlantic slave trade.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that, Chief Quietwater?
I'm in agreement with you guys. You're right. They just pretty much just flipped the script on us and went along with it to this day.
I'm sure this government, or whoever the fuck they want to call themselves, they're pretty accurate when it comes to the depictions of, what they did and the movements they were making. And as you can see, us coming from that southeast region, that was the Cherokee territories, down in Florida, Seminole territories, and then keep pushing more to the west. You're getting your Creek, Chickasaw, and Choctaw, whoever else comes out of those lands. But now I love this picture because it just shows, our family did split apart. Some people, not to say laid down, but some people pretty much no longer wanted the war, and they took this long journey.
Yeah, for me, I got a good friend of mine that grew up in New Orleans. He's probably like 10 years older than me. And we were talking about Mardi Gras. And because I'm understanding the history and grounding myself that I'm the American, if you look at this map and you see where people from Central Florida and that Tampa area were shipped directly to New Orleans, when they do the second line, and Atlanta Falcon fans can relate to this through the New Orleans Saints, when they play football, the second line, the history of it is honoring American tribes. That's what the second line is in New Orleans. And the biggest chief that they honor is Chief Osceola, which is the one when Florida State Seminoles football play, that chief comes out on that bareback horse. They've changed the image of him, but he was what you call a Negro. He looked like us. So that's just a connection for anybody who's from Louisiana or New Orleans that watches this video. Go back and look at your heritage of the second line. They dress up in very exuberant American garb, American tribe garb, and everybody does dances, and whoever's the fresh wins that second line for that year. Another thing that he told me about that is Europeans have been trying to participate in the second line forever, and the natives won't let them. So shout out to the people in New Orleans that are like, nah, this is our stuff. Because the Mardi Gras is what the Europeans started, and Americans couldn't participate in the Mardi Gras. So that's how the second line even came about. But I just wanted to throw that history note in there that this American Removal Act ties right into the connection that Florida and New Orleans has. And the people in New Orleans don't even realize that the chief that they all honor comes from the Seminole Wars. The other point on that for me is the fact that the lineage split. There's a civil war that has to go on between us as Americans, because you got those 5 nations in Oklahoma now, and they're acting as if there's no Cherokees coming out of anywhere east of the Mississippi, or no Choctaws, no Seminoles. The reality is that's a very small portion of us that went on the Trail of Tears. And we know that because the Seminole Wars kept going on. And you're here, I'm here, Chief Biko was here, Chief Quietwater is here. How are we all Cherokee But let y'all tell it, the Cherokees are in Oklahoma. It's a lie.
Always get mad at me when I talk about just what I'll be talking about, but anybody from New Orleans, I'd be like, oh, okay, so you really like a Florida boy. They'd be like, what? I'm like, it's the same thing to me. That, you know, that's just me knowing what went down. And yeah, if you just look at it today, New Orleans, Florida, Georgia, everybody down from that, you know, bottom South Georgia, it's the same energy.
Yeah.
That Kodak, you know, that the long hair, New Orleans long, like it's the same energy. The tongue, how they talk, how they slow their words, it's the same thing.
Yeah, same culture, same culture. And now we just seeing or understanding how that came to be. The next one we have here, even just kind of piggybacks off of what we were stating in regards to the American Removal Act, and that'll be the Treaty of Payne's Landing. I'll share my screen here. And in that treaty, we again see or highlight that, okay, this was again, this treaty was done in the independence of the United States. And it's also being done after, pretty much after the American Removal Act of 1830. So 1832 here. And as we see again, nobody as far as a representative from the United States, all militia or all military people in regards to this. So again, just Asian interpreter, commissioner, secretary commissioner of this particular brigade. So again, just showing another or highlighting another bogus treaty that was made. This one in particular between the Seminole Americans and this military here. Any thoughts on that? It's kind of similar to the other treaty that we just highlighted, the Moultrie Creek one.
What document is again? I got distracted. Oh, Treaty of Payne's Landing.
Yeah, Treaty of Payne's Landing.
Yeah. No, man, just knowing who our ancestors was, you know. I can already see this as a treaty, you know, them contracting with the Seminoles. So it's just, you know, going back to who we are and then recognizing those names who signed back to the 13 or the 12 practical steps, you know, who signed these dotted lines, who established these estates in these territories. And Chief Alligator had said, you know, him saying he's from Duval, that's just us kind of, again, you know, me being from Grady or me being from Georgia, us again just eating our ancestors away. And we can unpack that by this right here. Okay, who the fuck established this territory? Go back to the treaty, boom, boom, boom. And now you know, okay, that's not my ancestor. You know, we can do away with that. That's my piece.
I'm in alignment with you, simple and straight to the point. Yeah, claiming things that we don't know, putting curses on ourselves. Yeah, that's what made us niggas. And that's why the world doesn't have a lot of respect for us, because we honor the curses that are put on us due to our own ignorance. That's my thought on this. Only thing else is, even though it says the treaty with the Winnebago, we know that this actually is the Seminoles if you look at the articles. But Winnebago, that's a vehicle that we know today. So that's another example of how the European took an American tribe and made it a vehicle. So when we think Winnebago, we're thinking a vehicle, not knowing that's a group of people that they encountered and went to war with. That's my thoughts.
I'm in alignment with everyone else as well. Just knowing this information, again, I just have to always go back to educating ourselves and knowing, like Chief Blacko said, who actually signed these documents and know the importance of the information that was included in it.
And the beauty of like the Winnebago comparison you just made, it just proves that we are at home and somebody had to come up with new ideas, and it weren't that many ideas out there. So we'll just use their names and just throw it on whatever, you know. But again, us being ignorant to our people or into who we are, yeah, dog, thought it was a fucking car.
We'll think they made up that name out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just took it from us.
And then you come to find out this was a group of people. This was, you know, our elders and our ancestors living life. And they just erased them and said, you're now a fucking car.
Absolutely right, though. Great points made by everybody there. And that pretty much concluded the first quarter there. The second quarter, we kind of went over some more treaties, had the Fort Gibson one. Chief Quietwater, do you have the images from the Tampa as far as that first Seminole War?
I got 'em.
You got them on your end, Chief?
Yeah,
Didn't you have them, Chief Alligator?
yeah, I got them. I can just let me share my screen real quick, and we can go through that real quick. Okay. So this is in Tampa, and you can see the unconquered spirit, where it says, although the Florida Seminoles were never totally defeated, their numbers were greatly diminished. White settlers continued to push deeper into Florida, forcing tribes to remain within the protection of the Everglades. So here we can see they're partially telling the truth when they're talking about that particular tribe of Americans, but that also goes for Cherokee and all the other tribes because we're descendants of them and we're still here. And this is in the Tampa Library. One of the things that I've always wanted to do once I started awakening is always take historical tools of wherever I go, because I understand we're buried in a shallow grave under all these major cities, right? Like we're there, but if you get caught up in the beach, in the hotel or wherever, you'll miss who your grandparents were, what they were there. Even Andrew Jackson, he's on the $20 bill, going back to their fiat currency. Again, every time we honor that man, pull out the dub and put it in our music, we don't understand. We're putting a curse on ourselves because this man did huge damage to everybody in the Southeast region of North America. And I want to get to the map thing. And I got emotional when I was here, just learning about this, just being in there, just understanding like, wow, they know who we are. And we'll never think, where to look, right? In their educational centers.
And I want to just add something real quick. Like you said, wow, they know who we are. What disturbs me the most, it doesn't disturb me. It has to be something bigger of why our history had to be taken away and tarnished, because, European colonization happened all over the world, but specifically here, you no longer carry your flag, you no longer carry your traditions, you no longer carry anything related to you. Why was the punishment so harsh to rip that away? Like, this group of people has to be more than what meets the eye. Because again, colonization, conquistadors was everywhere. So why did they allow them to keep their traditions, and why did ours have to be stripped away of us?
Great point.
Yeah, excellent point. Excellent point.
And we're just good. Now I was just showing the maps, and I just wanted to get to that last one. This is image of Chief Billy Bowlegs, and a lot of these people, again, growing up in South Florida, as far as high school is concerned, never knew about these people. So it shows the military brainwashing. This stood out to me. This is on a whole wall in that museum, and this just kind of and it's also on my background. This date right here, as we go through American history, understanding that the Third Seminole War never ended. And so they got a date on it from the 1817 to 1858. And then the lie when they reconstructed history, right? And they tried to, how are they going to make this group of people that they could never beat? How could they prevent a future war with their offspring? And the only way you could prevent a future war is tell them they're from somewhere else and tell them that they were nothing since they've been on this land. Never wake back up that spirit, that for them to know that only a small portion of them went into Oklahoma, that the majority of you that's in what we know now as the dirty South, y'all are the ones we couldn't conquer. And this map just really cemented it for me, because this is on a whole wall in that museum. They know who we are, going back to what Chief Blackco said. They know we stood ground in this Southeast region. Anybody want to just share on any of these images that I just went through?
I thought standing ground was pretty, eye-opening for them to name that, and it just goes. I'm meeting a lot of other people from other parts of America, Virginia, just more up north on the East Coast though, and our stories are similar about just our groups or our tribes, our nations, how there was no laying down and there was no to sign treaties. No one really wanted to sign treaties with these people. It just kind of, that umbrella just kind of took us in. No one really wanted to do business with them. And it shows right here, standing ground. That was a very, specific term they wanted to name it. Yes, they stood ground. They didn't give up. Standing ground, meaning continuously. And shout out to our ancestors, man. This is beautiful. And it's right there. Like, even though you can't really see what's going on, they're trying to tell you, like, look, that's what it is.
I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
No, I was gonna just say that I think that is beautiful, just the fact that we actually did fight. We were warriors, we did fight. And again, I always have to go back to the fact that if the majority of us knew that, and didn't go with the lie and the indoctrination of what we've been taught, that our spirit would still be the same, because it's in us for sure. It's definitely in us. And I just think that I just think that it just has to be awakened, that's my opinion on it.
I feel like it's there, I hate to go back to black on black crime. That's just stupid to me, because people kill whoever is around them. But the spirit's still there. Our group is not a soft group of people. Like, you just can't walk up to one of us and say what you want, and then we just gonna walk away on some passive shit. No, like, the spirit is still there. It's just religion got us in a chokehold. We think of the European as being God. They think white is cleanness and pure. And we gotta erase that bullshit. Like, it's fucking with our mental. It's damn near impossible for me to see people get done the way we get done, and there's no retaliation to the op, as we like to call it. We go hard for that dumb shit in music and play around with it when it comes to gang banging. But who the real op? And the spirit's still there. It's just, it's all fucked up.
You're right, though. You're right. As far as the images, one, again, just kind of highlighting, just knowing yourself. I had images of the Dawes, like, even going back to that, like, we knew what we looked like. We knew, we knew what we were looking at in regards to, our reflection. Even just going back to, how they like to highlight the doll experiment, where, they'll put one of the American children and say, which doll you think is prettiest. Like, there wasn't another doll to even, look at or to even be compared to, because this is me that I'm seeing and that I'm, playing with. So that was even cool. And again, just shows like, okay, if we aren't the American, then why does that doll look like us? Just asking simple questions like that. And they're putting it on display in these museums, in display in these museums of what the Seminole American looks like. So it's like, how much in your face does it have to be for you to realize that you are who they're showing in this museum? Like, you come from that. So it's like, again, just getting rid of that brainwashing and just understanding who we are. Again, getting back to taking these field trips to these places like this are super important.
And what the image that's up there now, how we don't know the history of certain things, but to read this statement here, it says, what really makes a person a true Florida cracker? Besides being born in the state, several things: a love of the land and nature, growing things in soil, close family ties, and a deep sense of religion. It also means crackling bread and grits and periwinkle soup and swamp cabbage and okra gumbo and ham hocks with collard greens and chicken fried in a cast iron skillet, guava jelly, and homemade blueberry cobbler. that definitely sounds like what they project onto us in regards to the fried chicken and things like that. You know, it was them. Again, they just switched the narrative and the people that it represents. So again, knowing the true history of things.
Cracker love some chicken, huh? Boy, cracker, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know that KFC be going crazy. But
Right.
nah, that's a great point. Great point there, Chief. Shoot, as we move forward, we kind of just touched based on not only the Seminole War in regards to those images, but also we touched base again, just digging deeper into the American Removal Act, Treaty of Payne's Landing, as well as Moultrie Creek. Did you have the Fort Gibson one available, Chief Quietwater? That was the only one that we didn't really touch base on in that first quarter of the year. But pretty sure that highlighted again just who we were contracting with, military. Wasn't anybody regarding the U.S. government or anything like that. And that came prior to the Moultrie Creek Treaty. If not, we can go ahead and jump into the third quarter where this is where we just challenge all historians, ones that look like us as well as the European. If there was a civil war, then why wasn't that mentioned by not only the president as far as Abraham Lincoln during, the beginning of that quote unquote war, but also, the president after him, Andrew Johnson. But here, this is the Treaty of Fort Gibson. And I think here in Article, was it this one? 4?
Is it the one before this?
Let me check here. I think I have that one. I think that is the same one though, the Treaty with the Creeks. I think the alternate name for it is that Treaty of Fort Gibson. Pulling it up on my end. Let's see. I know this one is which one, as far as the treaty that you're showing, that's just highlighting again that they even acknowledge that majority of, the American was still east of the Mississippi, specifically the Seminole.
Do I need to pull that one back up?
I could pull it up here. I think this may be it. I think it was the same one. We just had to scroll down because it seemed like they had cut off in the article. I think this was it there. See it here. Yeah, just highlighting this portion here. We had here about 4. Yeah, the Muskogee or Creek Nation, as well as those now residing upon the land as the great body of said nation, who still remain on the east side of the Mississippi. It is also understood and agreed that the Seminole Americans of Florida, whose removal to this country is provided for by their treaty with the U.S. dated May 9th, 1832. So again, here they just acknowledging again that majority of the people are still east of Mississippi, and that's how we are still here. As we highlighted earlier, all of our family and bloodline, was east of Mississippi. In regards to like even the southeastern, eastern portions of us, as far as our lineage, we still at exactly where we are, we're born from. But again, just highlights nobody in regards to the U.S. Government signed this treaty. Major in the U.S. Army, infantry, interpreters, things of that nature, but nobody from the actual U.S. government signing these treaties. So again, just another bullshit treaty that, they like to uphold or pick apart as, hey, you made a treaty with us, but it wasn't valid because, again, this wasn't signed by anybody within the United States government. So again, that just another highlight of what we've been seeing in regards to the treaties. We kind of went over in regarding the summary. Any thoughts on that? Or you all want to kind of jump into the Emancipation Proclamation and really quarter 3? I think quarter 3 where we kind of went warriors mode and just started really just beating the drum on in regards to who we are and what the European is. And again, that Emancipation Proclamation is really just what jumped everything off. Let me share that real quick.
Hold on 1 second before you share that.
Okay.
I was looking for the Savannah images about the slaves.
Mm.
Did we get to that point yet, or
These Savannah images.
that was referring to what Chief Quietwater said about the European was the slave?
No, we haven't gotten to that point yet.
I want to just show y'all this one last image, which is very important from that museum. Growing up in South Florida, there was always a battle between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, right? So Fort Lauderdale would be Broward County, Miami would be Dade County. What we don't know, going back to what Chief Blackcoat said, when people rep Dade County, Trick Daddy, Rick Ross, everybody, what they don't know is that was actually a European military officer that was slaughtered in Tampa during the Seminole War. Do one of y'all want to read this real quick? And this is right there. What area was this, Chief Quietwater? Was it Ybor City?
Ybor City, Ybor.
Yeah, so right in the heart of that Tampa district. But you want to read it, Chief Biko?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Historic Fort King Trail, the old military road connecting Fort Brooke, Tampa, and Fort King, Ocala, ran through this this vicinity. On December 23rd, 1835, Major Francis L. Dade set out over the trail with a detachment of 109 soldiers to reinforce the small garrison at Fort King. Again, this being in Ocala. On the morning of December 28th, 1835, Chief Alligator, leading the Seminoles and Maroons, ambushed the Dade expedition near Bushnell. Only three survived, and the Dade massacre planned by the fiery Osceola, Chief Osceola, marked the beginning of the Second Seminole War.
So that goes right in alignment with Florida history. Like I say, when you hear these people representing Dade County, what we don't know is you're putting a curse on yourself again, because you don't know that Dade was a European officer and all of his soldiers but 3 were killed. So whether it's Grady Hospital in Atlanta or Dade County, Duval County, most of this stuff that we rep, we're actually putting a hex on ourselves because we're honoring somebody that our ancestors had killed. I just wanted to just finish that. That was probably one of the most powerful things I got out of that tour as well.
Excellent point. Excellent point there. Let me see here. Share my screen for the emancipation. And again, this was the first document of the first or the third fiscal quarter, beginning of the year. And, usually this is where we, as far as historians in our brainwashing that gets done, or indoctrination, this is where they say, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. But again, just our indoctrination, we're thinking, okay, we're the slaves. And that's not even the case. We weren't the slaves. We aren't the slaves. But even in this one, it highlights again that there wasn't a civil war. This is again a executive document, because this is coming from the president at the time, Abraham Lincoln, and he doesn't mention the words Civil War one time in this document, but he does speak on it being a rebellion. I'll even do a quick little search and show exactly how many times the word rebellion came up. So here, where shall the people, where else shall then be in rebellion against the United States, and shall be thenceforth forward and forever free. Again, shall be in rebellion.
Hold on. So who are they really talking to right there?
Right there in the first part.
And what you just read, they're talking to their own people. Read that one more time so we can put it in proper context. Gotcha. If it's not a civil war, this is an internal fight. This is like a riot. This is a rebellion. What did Lincoln say in that first rebellion? One more time.
Right here. The people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States shall be then thenceforward and forever free. So the people in rebellion shall be free. Who was in rebellion? The European, not our people. So the European is who? The slave. If they're needing to be freed, that's who he's referring to. It's a great point. Great point there.
I'm
Anybody?
just curious to know, is the word war in this document at all?
No.
Just that, okay.
One word, one time
Civil War, none of these documents we've read. That's what we're looking for. We're like, where's Civil War? Where does it say
War.
Civil War? It never says that.
Right.
Like you said, a riot. People in the streets protesting, mad, burning things down. Yo, chill. Yeah. Then again, right below on that second rebellion, shall then be in rebellion against the United States and affect any state or the people, therefore, shall on that day be in good faith represented by Congress of the United States. So yeah, he kind of just how that in my way sounds like the Dawes Act, how they just kind of in good faith, we're just gonna go ahead and protect you, even though you're mad at us, but you know, in this emancipation, Lincoln pretty much gave them a pass. Hey, let's stop warring and we'll represent you in good faith. You know, if you just stop your rebellion against us, just kind of swindling the people with good words.
So let me ask y'all a question. Some of y'all on this channel are college graduates, right? What's so hard about a scholar showing us in one of these documents where it says Civil War? I'm not the sharpest pencil in the bunch, but I'm just saying, y'all keep saying Civil War through media. Show us in the document where it actually says Civil War.
They won't do it. They can't do it. And look, I even give them a bone. I read this sentence here. Now thereof, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, by virtue of the power in me, vested as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States in time of actual armed rebellion against the authority of the United States, and as a fit and necessary war measure. They'll probably want to highlight war measure and say, oh, that's it. What does it say after that? War measure for suppressing said rebellion.
United States Army.
Again, nothing in here states anything about it being a war.
And that's from the president. That's the president of their government.
Correct.
Okay.
Look, I highlight then, therefore, only thing that would be even considered close, and this doesn't even say anything regarding Civil War, just saying necessary war measure for suppressing the rebellion. So they're just taking measures like it will be a war, but they're calling it, again, a rebellion.
So now here's a, and I'm just speaking from all my life experiences and all my different transactions over my life. The people who look like us that are scholars that teach history, they know there was no war.
Mm-hmm.
So they're literally being to brainwash us into believing something else because the document doesn't say what comes out of their mouth. You're not supposed to think for yourself. Using the church as an example, you're supposed to take whatever that preacher says as gospel. That's how these orators of history or these teachers, that's how schooling, that's why I never jived with school, because you're not supposed to challenge the teacher. You're not supposed to ask him, well, show me in writing where it says Civil War.
Right.
The fact that they won't touch it when you ask them, show me the document, it's like it's almost like, why are you rattling the cage? Like why are you exposing this? Because this is part of the reason why our people are sick. We're believing in something that they can't prove in writing actually happened. It didn't happen.
Right.
Anybody else want to share on the Emancipation Proclamation and just what jumped out about it to you?
The fact that it wasn't a war.
That's pretty much it. Again, that it wasn't a war. Another lie being told, or another lie, another reconstruction.
One of the biggest lies.
Yeah.
People are under the impression that we wanted to be civil.
And that just kind of highlights or jumps us into what we did the second week, was read that Amnesty Proclamation. Pull it up here.
And this is probably the most powerful video that y'all did, because now, Chief Biko, you're getting ready to show them in black and white.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll just start here. Return to their loyalty and to restore the authority of the United States. Issue proclamations offering amnesty and pardon to certain persons who had directly or by implication participated in said rebellion. So again, in the first goddamn paragraph, he's not saying war, said rebellion. So again, something internal. So the people that's fighting, they had control over, which would have been the European slave.
And this is the second president. So they killed Lincoln, and now this is Johnson. This is the second president writing a lawful document, calling it rebellion.
Right. Look, second paragraph after that. Whereas many persons who had so engaged in said rebellion have, since the issuance of said proclamation, failed or neglected to take the benefits offered thereby. So again, no civil war, and offering them pardon, because this is all this is, amnesty proclamations is pardon, giving pardon to some of these individuals. Sound very similar to what January 6th, right? We're not going to really, lay down any punishment. We're going to, identify you, tag you as certain people. In January 6th, instance, they tag them as insurrectionists. This one, we'll see later as we continue to go through the summary, they'll be tagged as with freedmen. So again, and we always think, that's us. But nope. If we actually read the documents, people will clearly see that all of this, this propaganda and these things don't exist. Again, rebellion.
Hold on. Pull up, do your search and pull up where it says fake Confederacy. So we can put this. Where does it say it? Pretended Confederate government. There you go, right there.
The first one of the pretended Confederate government. So again, the Europeans who rebelled, your president is clearly stating that y'all not a Confederacy. You can't be a Confederacy.
So they were acting as us, because it says that they're pretended civil or different diplomatic officers or otherwise domestic and foreign agents of the pretended Confederate government. So that's why we say we are the Confederates. We descend, those that are Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, we descend from the Muskogee/Creek Confederacy. Europeans can't be that. And it's amazing how they want to be us so bad. Go ahead, Chief Black Coat. I didn't want to stop you, Bill.
No, I don't even know what I was about to say. No, but you said it there. Pretended Confederate government. That's what I was gonna say. The fact that the United States government even acknowledged them as a pretend government coming out of the Confederacy, they were organized. They definitely got organized, and the government felt like it was a threat. So here it is, putting out this proclamation. They just diffused it, but they got organized and was willing to go against their own government that brought them over.
Yeah, even to highlight that, hey, we won't even give you all the label of even considering or being called Confederate government. Y'all are pretending government, and to put that in the actual federal document,
Right.
It's game over. You can no longer claim to be a Confederacy or be a Confederate soldier.
And it's almost like they want to dissolve the Confederacy government.
You fugazi, you fluke. Yeah. But for the president to actually say, like, yeah, y'all fake. We're not even, you're not a Confederacy. We're not even gonna allow that to even be said. Now, this is federal document, but we always hear in our books and schooling and McGraw-Hill's and Scholastic that the Confederacy. So they'll say, or they'll call them a Confederacy, but the actual federal document says they are pretend Confederacy. So why are school or the indoctrination or these brainwashing camps teaching that they were or they are a Confederacy when that's not the case?
Chief Quietwater, what's your thoughts on this?
I'm in alignment with everyone else. Just the words that they chose to use, like Chief Biko said, pretended pretended, what was it? What's the phrase? Pretended
Confederate government.
Confederate government. You
So-called.
you can't later on change that. I mean, like you said, it's in a document, a federal document. You can't switch up after that. It's stated. And yeah, I just think that it exposes them.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's like he's shitting on the Southern European, like in these documents, like this highlighted. All persons held the pretended offices of government of the states in insurrection, again, highlighting that term that they used on January 6th, insurrectionists. So they should be tagged and labeled just like this document, but that's not the case.
I think one thing where I don't want to overlook this, and I was asking Chief Quietwater, what I'm trying to get, I'll say it. It shows you how big of a liar they are because you've built statues as if it was a war. Your document shows something completely different. So it just shows you how you can't trust them at all. Like you will lie and make something up that never happened.
And everyone is in 100% support of it.
Look, I didn't say it, but I ain't gonna tell you that it wasn't one.
Right.
The federal government never said it was a civil war, but we gonna let the story go along because we can't let that karma be on us. So we'll allow, any other company that wants to, make a story or highlight whatever they want to that. But federal government, nah, these niggas are so-called Confederate states. Like
they went as far at Stone Mountain, just showing the lie. They'll carve these Europeans in the side of the mountain to portray something that didn't happen.
Right. Absolutely. This is definitely one that I really wanted to highlight. What was that? Oh yeah.
No, I'm just saying how Europeans are just full of shit, man. It's just, but I mean, yeah, you gotta allow your way to the top when you come from nothing. You gotta, toot your own horn.
Absolutely. Okay. So the next one was the European slaves, and I think you kind of highlighted that there, Chief Alligator, just in regards to the picture you showed about the general Dade and how that was actually named after him at that particular county.
Does somebody have that link from the Library of Congress where it clearly says it? Remember we attached that to that video?
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull it up.
We can just show where it, again, this is a federal document out of their Library of Congress admitting the European was a slave. We're not guessing.
I had actually taken some notes from that, how they broke down how the Europeans, there was like 19, from the 1850 census, there was like 19 million Europeans during that time. And that was just indicative to say that they were the ones that were on the transatlantic slave trade. They were the ones coming in. I think we even had a picture. Were you able to find it?
Showing them packed on the
I can
ships.
Yeah, pull that up if you,
You got it.
That's a great note you took. I remember when we worked that census map.
Hold on, let me see.
And if you can find that letter, Chief Biko, where it clearly said that it spoke like they were anticipating coming to the Americas because of all the inventions we had and the machinery, and they worked like dogs, like they were over there in Europe.
Absolutely. Let me see if I can find that one.
It was what was it? July the 16th. Let me see. I had clicked out of this. Let me see. Oh, I know where it's at. You could probably pull up the video. You want me to pull up the video?
And I'll show the document.
Yeah, because I actually, let me see.
I have the census here. Let's see this. Let me find that Library of Congress document.
It should be attached to that actual video.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to pull up. I had it actually pulled up. Here it is. I can, I guess, share mine. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, that's fine.
Boom.
Hold on 1 second. It was about right here.
Oh, you didn't attach the link underneath in the description to pull up the link?
Hold on, let me see. I can do that.
Boom. There we go.
This here?
Mm-hmm. It should be at the bottom.
Yep.
Where it says right here?
Go to the next page. Is it on that page or the next page?
It should be at the top of the next page. That's it.
There it is, white slave. No, we have to go back one page. It's white slave there too, but what we're looking for, I think she was on the correct.
It starts at the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
No?
The extended to Jews.
Or go to the top. Go to the top of that page. Boom, there it is. Okay, so we'll have to go back one more page and start at the bottom of the previous page before this.
Oh, okay.
You got it, Chief Quiet Water. You want to read it?
Where am I? Oh, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is to be well dressed, well housed, comfortable. America is raging against drink, against the exploitation of immigrants, against the fate of the white slave, against anyone who has done anything immoral. So it basically says it right here. White slave. It's clear as day. Keep going, or
If you could have just went a little, if you go back one page and right where you started, if you could just start from that paragraph, start at that paragraph where it says the common citizen. If you scroll up just a little bit so you can see. Right
okay.
there. Read that so you can get an idea.
Okay. The common citizen is becoming the watchdog of the police service. Tammany has fallen. Women are getting suffrage state by state. The nation is unanimous in its cry for a pure state, a clean country, and uncorrupted people. All diseases are to be healed. Couples who wish to be married must produce health certificates. The mentally deficient and hereditary criminals are to be segregated. Blue books, or rather what the Americans call white books, are going to form the Bible of a new nation. The day is going to be rationally divided into 8-hour work days, 8-hour work, 8 hours pleasure, 8 hours sleep, or rather 8 hours looking at machinery, 8 hours pleasure, 8 hours sleep, for machinery is going to accomplish all the ugly toil.
So we can clearly see that when they were shipping their slaves and their criminals over to this land, we segregated them. We had their criminals separated from their, you just read that. Where did it say?
Mentally deficient right there. And
right.
The hereditary criminals.
To be segregated. So we basically was like, we don't want to be amongst your criminal. We'll put them in a, so here again is further proof that they were the slave.
Yep.
Europe flushed its toilet and set over their lower class. That's just a historical fact.
Mm-hmm.
But you're trying to put that curse on us by saying, no, we were slaves. But that goes back to what Chief Quietwater said. Well, how 19 million of y'all come over here in 1850?
Correct.
A lot of people.
Correct.
Atlantic, or not even that, just importing a bunch of immigrants and slaves over here.
You have that map as well that you were going to show, or how were y'all going to do that?
Got the census here, 1850.
That's what you were referring to, right, Chief Broadwater?
Yes.
Okay. And we see here whites, 19 million. And this would be considered, this is Delaware to Missouri.
You know what area on the map you got that note from? You remember?
I can't remember. I just noted that the free states, it was 13 million, and then the slave holding states was 6 million that were accounted for on that census.
It's all the way to the right on that map, Chief Biko. You got to kind of back out and go all the way to the right and up. There you go. That's that section right there where we're showing. How many slave holders and all. That's another, you know, they told it in reverse, but even the idea that all of them was on plantations, that's just unrealistic because most of them didn't have a lot of slaves working on their land anyway.
Correct. Like she said it here, 16 free states with white population of 13, and 15 slave states with a white population of 6. So that 19 million right there. And then again, as he was just alluding to, majority of the holders had less than 10.
Wow.
Less than 10.
Right. So if you divide 19 million into 80,000, that tells you a lot of people didn't have slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that people that look like us get in front of us on TV and tell us that every last single one of us was a slave. How?
Not true.
How?
Yeah. Not true at all. Not true at all. And this is kind of something that we'll get into. We're seeing here the territory of Kansas from 1850. That's going to kind of lead us into something that we'll talk about here. I think there you go. So we just said the European was the slave. We weren't. And of course, they like to throw out the 13th through 15th Amendment as if that applies to us as well. We'll go ahead and pull that up. All right. So again, 13th Amendment, that's always the one that they like to highlight as far as freeing the slaves, okay? Or indentured servants or involuntary servitude. But again, as we just highlighted, the European was the slave. And that can even rhyme with the Civil Rebellion in regards to why they were fighting against themselves, because they're like, hey, we have these, the Europe's trash working and toiling these lands. We're not trying to give that up or give them rights that's going to hurt our pockets in regards to that. But as we see here, neither slave nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So again, this is just a 13th Amendment here.
Wait a minute. Chief Quietwater just read how they segregated their criminals when they came over here.
Mm-hmm.
So who's to say that as soon as they came off that boat and landed in the new land, they already knew that they was a criminal coming from Europe, so they just reconvicted them on that same crime here and put them into slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Who said it didn't happen, which is how you get them rebelling against the government. Like, it's almost, damn, I hate this. Okay, it's kind of like, let's say you got a 30-year sentence in Europe. And Europe was like, we don't have nowhere to house y'all. You know what? Put the motherfuckers on a boat and send them over there to the new land.
Mm-hmm.
When they got over here, that sentence came with them.
Mm-hmm.
And over a period of time, enough of them on a military work camp or a plantation, whatever you want to call it, they decided to organize themselves and be like, you know what? I could have did that time in Europe. I didn't know y'all were going to send me across the water and try to tag me with the same thing. That makes more sense. Y'all want to, what's your thoughts on that?
No, I see how you see it. Yeah. Kicking me out. Now I'm over here still serving time. Yeah, nobody in their right mind would go along with that one. So I can definitely see the European, rebelling against. Like, yeah, no, I'm on a whole new continent. What we talking about? And yeah, over time, yeah, I can see a group of them coming together and rebelling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Or 14th Amendment, just basically it's said here, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So again, just making them US citizens, but again, schooling tells us, if you're a citizen, then now you're American. Nah, that's not the case. That's not the case at all. You are a property or a citizen of that government, but that does not make you an American. And that just kind of breaks down into, again, that all persons born or naturalized. So they know they're Europeans coming over into the Americas, and that naturalization act saying basically got to be over here for 5 years, meet these certain criteria, then you can become a US citizen. But again, this doesn't highlight anything regarding our group of people. Because again, we weren't even in this government or made citizens of this government until 1965. So we see in here, 1868 is when this was ratified. We saw that there's no civil war. So we're not the slaves. So who are these amendments actually for? The European.
And keep in mind, it wasn't 50 states back then. So I think another problem is like when they say United States, you're thinking as it is in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
In 68, they had a little bit more than 13 states.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So we gotta remember that too. So yeah, they're only talking about those that they can account for. And it makes sense. You know who you put on the ship in Europe, and you know who got off the boat in America.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way that they're going to account for who their U.S. citizens are.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. And the last one, Amendment 15, basically the right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or obliged by the United States or by any state on the account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Now that just makes more sense, right? In regards to who they're talking about. We just said they're just emptying their debtor prisons, or they're just bringing their scum, they're segregating them by their criminals and pretty much they're mentally ill. So they're just saying, okay, we're not going to discriminate based off of any of these factors, based off of, if you're a darker European color, if you're Irish instead of, from England or from Britain, we're not going to discriminate against that. Or if you were, paid off your debt from, whatever debtor prison you came from, we're not going to, discriminate on that. So you'll still have the right to vote. And again, this doesn't apply to us because the American didn't have the right to vote until 1965. So where or why do we get off thinking that, the 13th through 15th Amendment actually applied to us when the documents say that it didn't? And the next one that kind of leads us into the Freedmen's Bureau. Now just highlight exactly who were the freedmen. We always think Freedmen's Bureau, 40 acres and a mule, but that really wasn't the case in regards to that being given to our people. That was being given to the refugees of the Civil Rebellion. Now I pulled it up here. If I can find the document. My stuff pulled up.
As I'm just curious to get everybody's opinion on them 13th through 15th Amendments, because listening to what Chief Biko was saying, if you don't take time to read this, I can see people saying this motherfucker crazy as hell. Where he get this from? But what's y'all thoughts on the 13th through 15th Amendment?
We were lied to, or not even that we were lied to. We kind of just put ourselves in that predicament, thinking those apply to ourselves, to us, to our group. knowing again that we the people sound good, but it ain't for you.
I think also too that it's misconception. You know, we included ourselves in something that had absolutely nothing to do with us.
Crazy out here right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just continue again, just trying to find where we fit in this picture. And it's like, we had our own picture. So you're not going to see us in this picture. You know, we're trying to look at somebody else's family picture and say, is that where we come from? We don't come from any of these fuckers in this picture. Our picture is over here, but it's like we're steadily trying to find ourselves because that's what we've been shown. Like, this is your forefathers. These are your family. Just even that verbiage. And it's like, okay, if that's the case, then do any of them look like you? Where do you see, where are you within that, you know, that picture? Even this here, again, another highlight of the rebellion to continue during the present war of rebellion. So again, not civil war. They're clearly saying war of rebellion. They're calling it what it is. And again, who actually this was the purpose for, and that would be the refugees. Let me see if I could quick.
How many times does rebellion pop up in this document?
In this one here, let me see. Like 6 times. So we got that one.
Civil War, how many times does Civil War pop up in that document? Because that's all we're trying to do is find out where y'all get this Civil War from.
Civil War. Let me see, we'll just go this way. Let's put it this way. 0 times for Civil War.
Okay.
So again, we're not making this stuff up, people, when we say that there was no Civil War. The documents state that there weren't. It was an actual rebellion. Here, present rebellion, and 1 year after 1 year thereafter, a Bureau of refugees from the rebellion, freedmen and abandoned lands to which shall be committed as hereunto provided, and the supervision and management of all abandoned lands and the control of all subjects relating to refugees and freedmen from the rebel states. Again, highlighting who this is for. The refugees of the civil rebellion. That wasn't us. That was whoever was in those areas getting pretty much dismantled. Refugees and the freedmen and their wives, children under such regulations. So again, nothing regarding Black people, Negroes, colored, all of the classifications of tags they put on us during this time. We don't see anything like that. They're specifically calling them refugees and freedmen. Freedmen being the European slave or involuntary servitude or indentured servant. Any thoughts on that? Just again, like you stated, Chief Black Coat, another lie. Another lie.
Right, I was just sitting here smiling, refugees and freedmen. Back to just how they pretty much ate us or swapped places. You have a lot of people claiming to be freedmen, last name in the family. Mm-hmm. And now we see where that comes from. Yeah, the freedman from Europe. So again, there's so many lies. This information is potent, but when only 100 individuals or 1,000 or 1,000,000 individuals have it, it's kind of useless. We have to do this work and understand what's going on here. Again, I want to go back to the European being on code. They're so on code, you can't see it. You don't even know what's going on. We've been down this timeline and we keep going down it, and we don't really see clearly what's going on. And it just goes back to just them being on code. Can we establish a code? Can we do the same that was done unto us? And just moving forward, this group has to establish that code that has no leader. The Europeans, you don't see them talking about anything, having spaces, having Facebook, like it's already understood assignment. So our group is moving forward. We got to get on code. That's what's gonna allow us to understand or move forward and take back what's ours. That code has to be established. Multiple things come to being on code and what the code looks like, but one has to be established.
Absolutely. Your thoughts on that, Chief Alligator?
Just not knowing our history, I think that's what Chief Black Coat's referring to. These Europeans know their history. They know who they descend from. They know. And so they don't have to talk about it. Every time they see one of themselves, they know what time it is. Yeah. And to be honest with you, it's almost like it's like a resentment within the family. Like they don't want to go back to Europe because they knew that they were exiled from Europe. So they don't want to go back and make amends with their family in Europe. Like, no, we here now. So that's their code. Like, we're not going back. We don't have nothing to do with the Queen and nothing to do with everybody, as they say, on the other side of the pond, because y'all sent us over here. So we had to fend for ourselves. We fought against you in the I think, what was that? The American Revolution that they had against their parents, which was Great Britain. Yeah, they fought off their daddy. They won. So it's kind of like, nah, we ain't fucking with y'all.
Great point. Anything there, Chief Quietwater? We'll move forward to the Civil Rights Act. And again, it's just another highlighted point in regards to who we are or who this actually applied to. Again, we just saw that the freedmen, that's not us. The civil rights thing that, we always have attached to us, but isn't for us. Just another document for those newly freed Europeans and those refugees. Again, no mention of Civil War as well. Only thing civil that you're gonna find is actually the Civil Rights Act. Nothing in regards to Civil War. And all this did was just highlight, the new rights that these newly freed refugees and freedmen have, as well as how they can pretty much mobilize to kill off the American. How they would be incentivized and deputized to actually, pick off the American whenever, whenever accessible, really, whenever accessible. But this document, again, did not show anything regarding our people, did not highlight any color, Negro, Black, nobody in regards to these words. So again, why do we think that these documents or these rights apply to us in regards to starting from the Emancipation Proclamation all the way up here to the Civil Rights Act? They don't. They're telling you exactly who they apply to. You just have to read the documents. Just have to read the documents. See, I think the last one in this one, and we have the special field order. This here, highlighted again, just military occupation in regards to this. How it stated that basically, let's see here, all reserved or from St. John's River, Florida, are reserved and set apart for the settlement of the Negroes now made free by the acts of war and a proclamation of President of the United States. So made free from the acts of war. In Beaufort, Hilton Head, Savannah, Fernandina, St. Augustine, and Jacksonville, the Blacks may remain in their chosen or accustomed vocations, but on the island and in the settlement hereinafter to be established, no white person, whatever, unless military officers and soldiers detailed for duty. So no white should be in these areas unless they're military officers detailed for duty. What duty? Keep the Blacks, the Negroes under military occupation.
Hold on one second. There's something powerful in that. The only time that the government recognizes an act of war is when we're doing it against them.
Mm,
They never said act of war when referring to the European. It's always rebellion.
right.
And this is showing you're not citizens of the United States government because you got a general saying in his military letter, these Negroes are doing acts of war. So here's a prime example of we're on the outside of this thing. The second thing, or the first most important thing, is this is a military letter.
Mhm.
So when you hear Dr. Martin Luther King and different religious leaders talk about 40 acres and a mule, it's impossible because the military doesn't make law. A general cannot write a letter and make it law. And that's the same way they just did the Juneteenth. They took Special Order Number 3 coming out of Galveston, Texas, and they've made it a federal holiday, but that wasn't law. Congress makes the law under their government. A military officer cannot write a letter and say it's law. No, it's I guess you could look at it as law as long as they're in that particular town and they got guns out. They can say, yeah, y'all not gonna let these people that was on this military work camp, y'all not gonna fuck them over. But what happens when that military leaves? The law never changed. And so I think it's a jurisdiction thing. We're not understanding. The military can only give you freedom as long as they're there. And that's kind of what happened with us that didn't go into the Indian territory during the Trail of Tears. Once the military stopped the rebellion against their own fighting against themselves, once the Union pulled out, yeah, you niggas was never made citizens of our shit. So we back in the Third Seminole War. Y'all thoughts on that?
I think that it again goes back to us knowing, like you said, that Congress has to make the law. You know, Congress has to be the one who put that put laws in effect. So we have to understand that just how it works, you know, not knowing how this government works has left us so far behind in regards to even current day of thinking that we know how it works, but we're ignorant to how laws are put down and how things just go without us noticing that they're changing things behind the scene, and we think that we know that what they're doing, but it goes so far over our head that we're still ignorant to where we are currently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this is just a good document of just highlighting the difference, you know, just in the language, even though, again, this isn't law. This is a general's letter or special order made by a general, just depicting exactly what's going on here. And I'll just read a little bit just to, you know, really drill down that point. Again, no officer unless a soldier on duty will be permitted to reside, and the sole and exclusive management of affairs will be left to the free people themselves, subject only to the United States military authority and acts of Congress. So they're only subject to the military authority and acts of Congress. Does that not sound like a prisoner of war? You're under military occupation in regards to that. Again, by the laws of war, another statement not made within that Amnesty Proclamation or Emancipation Proclamation, because again, two jurisdictions, two different rules. We're talking about the American here, we're talking about their citizens, and the nuclear fruit must be dealt with as such. So by the laws of war and orders of the President of the United States, the Negro is free and must be dealt with as such. So again, just showing about who has authority over these quote unquote newly freed Negroes or Blacks, as they said within this document here.
But that's a bait and switch. That sentence you just read, highlight that sentence real quick. And then I'd love to get Chief Blackcoat's thought on this. It just said the Negro is free.
Subject
in orders of the President of the United States, the Negro is free. What did we see from the president that said the Negro is free?
Mm-hmm.
We've never seen that. So you can see how this military officer to keep his troops from getting killed in that area he's in, he's writing a letter telling them you good.
Correct.
But Congress and the president never said of that government that you good.
Right.
That was the big switch.
Probably why they even italicized this shit free. Like, we're gonna highlight free. They really aren't free because again, you're still under military authority. So again, kind of like you said, just to make sure my soldiers aren't getting slaughtered, where I'm gonna write something, show you all, yeah, y'all free. No white people are here. It's only gonna be us to make sure the white people don't come in. But y'all still be under our authority.
Chief Blacko, what's your thought on that? Love to get your experience.
Give me 1 second. I'm trying to take it inside the house. Give me one.
It just highlights again that military occupation for me. A military occupation. Force service.
And it's weird how all these scholars that's amongst our group right now with this new federal holiday, June 19th, it's amazing how they're trying to take this letter in Galveston, Texas, Special Order Number 3, and they're trying to tell us that that was a law back then. Like, no, that wasn't a law. That was just a general from the military. But go ahead, Chief Blacko.
Yeah, my bad. I was trying to bring it back inside. But no, you said it, in this letter saying Negroes are free, this was the rogue military again, talking to the United States government. And yeah, generals don't make laws or rules or can hold prisoners of war or create prisoners of war. So yeah, this is the general trying to pretty much save his ass by saying these Negroes are free. Whatever was coming with it or out of it, he was trying to me, clean his shit up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to reiterate again, this is from General W.T. Sherman. So not a president, not executive order, again, a general. So Chief Blacko stated it's not law. It's not law at all.
And he was a major general, so he wasn't even a general. He's under a general, correct? Major
general, yeah. Silver Star or silver oak leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Who's above him? Who would be above the major general?
A general.
Okay, yeah, he's not even a general. That was my
1 star, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
1 star, 2 star. Once you get the star, just a general. But yeah, major general, he has an oak leaf. He still take orders.
The last one for that quarter would have been the Indian Treaty. I have to pull up here. I know I put one of these up here, which was here. That's pretty much treaty with the Choctaw and Chickasaw. And as I stated before, this was the longest document. It took us pretty much into all of the fourth quarter up until the Homestead Act. So from week 12 up to week 9, we just dealt with digging into the Indian Treaty. And as we saw here, we just saw pretty much how the land was divided. The land was divided between Choctaw and Chickasaw, who came up underneath the Choctaw and Chickasaw. It was multiple groups of people. We had freedmen, we had Africans, we had Kansas Americans, we had a multitude of different people within this document. But again, it all just highlighted that they were really pretty much, even though they classified them as Choctaw and Chickasaw nations, they were still coming up underneath the United States government. They had to still go through them to get all of their resources. So that's pretty much what highlighted and what stood out to me in regards to this document. Anybody want to piggyback off that?
Can you search for rebellion real quick and Civil War? Boom. So rebellion shows up 6 times in this document is written by Congress. And Civil War, if you put that in, does that come up?
Not at all. Again, prior to the late rebellion. But when it comes to Civil War, nothing at all.
So we proved again that we've gone down the timeline. We've taken the time to do the work. We've yet to see Civil War written by a document coming from the president or Congress.
Right.
So again, we're just challenging. We're just asking questions. We're just asking those scholars amongst us that do American history, where's the document that says that there was a Civil War? And don't point us to a book that
I was just about to say that.
We don't want to see the book that your frat brothers wrote. You know, show us the document from the president or Congress that says it was a Civil War. They can't do it.
Oh.
Not at all.
Can you pull up missionary real quick in that search bar? Because that was another thing where we realized that the missionary supersedes the treaty.
Missionaries.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, right here, Article 17. The missionaries established in the respective nations of their several missionary establishments. They have many establishments within these quote unquote nations, Choctaw and Chickasaw. It being the wish of parties hereto to promote and foster an influence so largely conducive to civilization and refinement, should any missionary who has been engaged in missionary labor for 5 consecutive months, and as they go on there.
Where does it say where they supersede the treaty? That's what I was looking for, where it says how they supersede the treaty.
It's basically saying that they must be in these areas. Let me see if it's another.
Down here, this next one down here, where it says missionary or educational purposes, but no land thus granted, nor the buildings which have been or may be erected thereon shall ever be sold or otherwise disposed of, except with the consent of the legislators of said nations respectively and approval of the Secretary of the Interior, to the support and maintenance of other similar establishments for the benefit of the Choctaws and Chickasaws. Okay, it was a little bit more specific where it said that they supersede the treaty. We can see you can't take down their buildings in that little reading that we just read. Basically, if they build a church or some type of school, the only people that can take that down is the Secretary of Interior or one of those nations. And this is where the brainwashing, those basically just brainwashing buildings. That's how you have to look at that, because now they're going to indoctrinate you into whatever religion that they want that group of people to embrace from European culture.
I think it was right here. No selection to be made under this treaty shall be permitted to deprive or interfere with the continued occupation by the missionaries established.
There it is. They supersede the treaties. So they're lying even within their own documents saying that the treaty is supreme law of the land, not when it comes to the missionaries.
Mm-hmm. Should not be deprived or interfered with.
And this was a long document, but Fire Water Chief Black Code, what jumps out to y'all or whatever y'all remember about this document? It was a lot in it.
No, the missionaries was definitely the biggest point of it. Just your church leaders, your popes supersede the treaties. That was the biggest thing coming out of this document.
I think that was an important point too, because current day, we live, us as a people live under that model. We have preachers as our leaders and things of that nature.
Right.
So I think that this definitely stands out to me too in regards to that. The religion is definitely one of the biggest things that keep us where we are with no growth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The next one that we would highlight coming up to the end, again, because that treaty did bring us into the fourth quarter in regards to our year of doing this work on YouTube. That brought us to the Homestead Act. I should have that pulled up. Let's see.
Would you have it, Chief Quietwater, already pulled up?
Got to use the archives one. I got it to pull it up here. And it's basically just explaining again how the European being brought over here, given 160 acres, up to 160 acres. And we're able to get, pretty much after that first 80, any additional lands that touched the lands that they had pretty much been divvied, or pretty much given. So again, just showed how the European got its wealth by taking our land. 160 acres per European head of household. That's crazy. That's crazy. I know this is one of the ones you said, Chief Quietwater, that really stood out to you. What's like your thoughts on it?
Just how they really gave us such a small proportion of the land. I mean, how they basically they just had it down to a science in regards of who got what and how much they were going to get, and it just got smaller and smaller and smaller. And the other thing that stood out to me is how they start using the word orphan, and how that kind of, they just dumping people into that box of just unprotected and unrepresented group of people, where they wouldn't have to give them hardly anything. So that's what pretty much stuck out to me.
Any other thoughts on the Homestead Act?
Do we see the word rebellion or civil war in this document?
This one, I don't think we did. Check here. I believe this is one of the ones. So this here is just the, what was that? The summary from this this writer, but that's not in the actual transcript. So even in this document, nothing.
That's a great point out. Hold on. In the summary, they use the word civil war, but in the actual transcript of the actual original document, they don't use it. You can see how they lie with their pen.
Mm-hmm.
But I would add on to what Chief Quietwater said when we follow the timeline now. So they've already given those Europeans that rebelled against the United States government, they gave them 40 acres and a mule.
Mm.
Now they're bringing over these newer Europeans from Europe, and they're going to give them 160 acres to go west of the Mississippi. So you can see where that internal fight still goes on with, I guess, the European that's in the South versus the newer Europeans that are coming over.
Mm-hmm.
They're only getting 40 acres and a mule and amnesty for bucking against their own government. These new Europeans, they come over, they get 160 acres. And somewhere in that document, it says, as long as they're willing to be faithful citizens of the US government. So you can tell that they're trying to sell their citizenship to the Europeans that are coming over, like, hey, we'll give you 160 as long as you be a faithful citizen.
Mm-hmm. Up there. It definitely says something along those lines. As long as you don't take up arms against the United States or anything like that.
What about you, Chief Blackcoat?
What's that?
On this document, anything jump out?
Nah, just another good document for the people to read. This one was straightforward.
Yeah, just one of the smaller ones here.
Other than them lying using Civil War.
And last but not least, we have the Dawes Act. And I know that was very similar to We have red in this one. So, this is where we currently are at in regards to the year end. But again, here just highlighted the difference between what we just read in the Homestead Act and what was actually being given to individuals underneath the Dawes Act. We'll just go here within the summary, highlights the specifics in regards to it being divvied out 1/4 at max to the lowest being basically 1/16 of an acre, or what they like to call sections. So here, each head of family 1/4, each single 1/8, 1/8, and the last one was the 1/16. So again, just showing you the comparison between what they're doing for the Americans versus what they're doing for the European that is fresh off the boat, just to make sure that they're filling in that Western territory. That way it can continue to expand all the way out to the other coast, basically being California. So again, it's kind of what Chief Alligator highlighted. We're saying the United States, they're not talking about, California, Nevada, Wyoming, these other places. They're established later on. They're going to be established because of the Homestead Act, things of that nature, because they're filling in more of the European to fight their fight against the Americans. Any thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Just a great show overall. I mean, we did a lot of content over the past year, so this meeting went over a little longer. Well, we doubled the time probably. But it was needed because now we have proof of claim that we're standing on. So I think moving forward, we're going to be challenging any and everybody to say, prove what comes out of your mouth. If you're saying that there was a civil war and this government fought to free us, show us the documents, because we have the proof of claim showing otherwise. That's the beauty of taking the time to do the work. Now we got documents to stand on, and we can now, like you said, when you open this thing up, there's no big I's or little U's. Your degrees and your letters before your name don't matter. Show us the documents that says that there was a civil war and this government fought one, so-called free us. We don't see that language. We don't see Negro. We don't see black, colored, in none of these documents that we just worked with. That's my thought on it.
I agree.
We just had a good year.
Yeah, definitely been a great year of information, a lot of information that I definitely didn't know. And hopefully people will, it'll get some more traction of people who are able to debunk what we're saying or have a healthy dialogue in regards to the information that we provided.
This was also just a healthy channel for reparations as well. We got the documents to prove who's who, what's what, where you come from, who was transported, just going back, unraveling this secret, and people will have more information on how to allot the reparations, and that's a part of this channel as well.
Great point. Yeah, great point out. And also, Chief Biko, and any channel or anybody that's listening, we're open to the channels and providing, having this dialogue. We're open to it. I mean, that's one of the things that we should do as a group of people. We have to start tribing up. We've done the work. We have our email address on this page. Feel free to reach out to our Chief of Communications, and that's something we can entertain this year.
For sure. Again, we shown the work, we shown the documents. Again, we did it. So I just went through briefly, just summarizing each of the documents we went over within this 1 year. So Chief Alligator stated, hey, if you have anything that's going to rebuke it, feel free to join the channel. Feel free to hop on. Feel free to, post your again, federal document. We're talking about no McGraw-Hills and no scholastic book fair books. We need legit federal government documents that's going to say that, hey, one, there was a civil war, one, that we're the slave that was being sent over here by the millions. So again, if that's what you believe, go ahead and provide some documents, again, federal documents that show that. Because what we just read and what we just went through doesn't show it. And again, we're starting at 1755, so we had to start a little bit earlier than that. That's all I got to say there, Chiefs.
Now, this is probably one of my favorite videos because I know most of the times we stick to one document for a long, extended period of time. Today, we got a chance to actually bring everything together, highlight the biggest highlights of each document, and just keep providing the information and still be in alignment with it. But this is probably definitely one of my favorite videos for sure. Great build on all of it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You too.
Yeah.